Cold email marketing sucks. Cold email marketing is horrible. Cold email marketing is dead. Do not use cold email marketing at all to grow your business. These are the things I've been hearing online. And it's actually what motivated me and Ryan to team up and just see, is this cold email marketing thing true? Okay, so we spent the last 30 days going over some cool cold email tactics, strategies. We've been using different softwares, and we came up with some pretty actually good results. So Ryan, if you can just get in that and just explain some of the things we've been doing, that'd be badass, dude.
Yeah, for sure. So like Ron said, past month we sent close to 5,000 emails to 2,500 people. I banged my head against a wall to come up with these systems. I had no sales experience coming into this. Ron got me on that side of things, but I had the systems down, and we're breaking that down for you guys here. There's about 5 different aspects of cold email that we're going to break down. That's prospecting, getting the right contacts, the decision makers, manipulating that data so to enhance that, organizing that data so you don't get overwhelmed at scale, using a drip email software, as well as CRM to keep track of leads coming into your pipeline. So we're breaking that all down for you guys. No matter if you're a marketing agency, an individual, or a big dog, like, you're going to learn something from this video.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff to learn. I mean, there's a point where, there's so much skepticism when it comes to cold email. We're thinking, are we even going to get leads from this? I've been calling Ryan, every other day. Hey, what's going on with the campaigns? What's going on with the campaigns? I haven't even talked to you for like 4 days because he's just been on phone calls with clients. It's insane.
Yeah, it was unexpected, honestly. Like, coming into this, we were just doing it for the case study, but it turned out that we landed 2 clients off of this so far, and that was unexpected for me. It's not being in sales before.
Through the testing phase.
Yeah, just through testing. So now it's just scaling it at this point.
Yeah, so, we give you the softwares, we give you the templates, we give you the times of day to email people, we give you everything, the numbers, whatever you need to get started on your own cold email marketing campaign, because it works, okay? Cold email works, all right? So hop in the video and check it out for yourself. If you have any questions, be sure to comment or message us, and let's just get started. Check it out.
Okay guys, before jumping in, I just want to quickly mention that we got a table of contents below this video, wherever you're watching it from. I highly encourage anyone to use this to jump around the video depending on what you're interested in looking at, because this video goes really into depth at times, and that might not apply for everyone watching this. Additionally, we got all the links and resources talked about in this video linked below as well, so check those out. If you have any questions, that's probably labeled down there. So the first step in this process is going to involve scraping your own contacts. If you are a buying list, you can just jump straight to the software portion of this video. Otherwise, there are some good insights in this part as well, but it might not be directly applicable to what you're looking for. So there's different ways to prospect depending on what industry you're in. The way a marketing agency prospects may likely be different than how a real estate agent does it. This is largely because they're targeting different customers. Regardless of how you prospect, you want to make sure you're targeting people who actually need your service and people you can produce results for. This is one of the first mistakes I made. I reached out to companies without checking search volumes of the cities they were in. From this, I got solid leads, but I found out after I would likely not be able to produce good results for them. You could argue that I might as well sell that service, but I only really want to work with people that I can produce significant results for, because that's what's going to build reputation and produce referrals. Let's jump into how I went about finding cities to prospect in for PPC services. This process is mostly relevant to local marketing agencies who work on Google and are not buying lists, but will definitely have some insight for everyone else. So the first step in this process is to download a free Chrome extension tool called Keywords Everywhere. This tool will display estimate search volumes based on keywords. Now, I'm not sure technically how it is getting its data, but I have a few theories to how it functions based on my experiences. First off, Keywords Everywhere does not give you exact results. There's always going to be differences in the numbers shown in the actual search results. Further, this error is more significant at lower search volumes, so keep that in mind for industries with low searches. All that being said, Keywords Everywhere is simply a tool to quickly estimate the viability of a keyword phrase. You can use tools like SEMrush and SpyFu to check the organic traffic and paid clicks to sites to help verify numbers, but this may best be left for an audit for time efficiency. The same can be said for using Google Keyword Planner. The second thing I'm unsure about is the time span in which the tool is pulling data from. It is likely these numbers are averaged over the course of a set period of months, maybe even a year, so these numbers could very well fluctuate in seasonal industries. Now head over to Google and type in a seed keyword for your vertical. Use the broadest term you can, as this will give you an idea of the cumulative search volume around that key term. This is what's called a broad match. These searches will include variations of the term as well as long-tailed versions. Keep your industry in mind, as some verticals may inherently have a large, hidden amount of searches for terms that may not have buying intent or are irrelevant to your industry. This can show up often as a higher volume of brand searches, so high customer loyalty niches or referral heavy, as well as parts and supply type searches, such as someone looking for plumbing parts. Notice Google's suggestions as you type out your search phrase, as well as the additional volume displays that Keyword Everywhere plugin is showing you. You may find that the original seed keyword you're typing gets higher search volumes for a different variation. This just means people are more often using that phrasing when doing searches, so you will likely want to use that as a seed keyword instead. Now click space after your seed term and you'll get more suggestions. It may be the case at this point that Google suggests a seed keyword city name search. In this case, this just means this is getting a large amount of searches and is likely one of the hottest cities to prospect in. It may also be the case that you've searched for this term before, so Google just knows this and will suggest it. However, a city search won't always show up at this stage, so you'll likely have to keep digging. Next, I'll go right through the alphabet starting with A and see what Google suggests. You'll likely start seeing some cities with good search volumes that you can add to a Google Sheet for prospecting. Significant search volume is relative to the industry you're in and the customer value. For example, an attorney can likely get away with a much lower search volume than a flower shop might. You can also click before letter to see if Google suggests any other cities. You could likely get enough cities to prospect from this alone, for your initial batch at least, but often I'll type in state abbreviations and click in between to search for high search volume cities specific to a state. From what I'm seeing, and specifically in industries where customers search a lot using their phones, state abbreviations are more common than writing out the complete state. Keep in mind that Google Suggest is not showing you the only high search volume cities in the state. You can verify this by changing the seed keyword, either by changing the prefix or suffix, changing the word completely, or extending it to something more specific. This will help you dig even deeper into a state for cities that didn't show up in your original search. Using these methods, you should be able to build up a large enough list of targeted locations. However, you can also use Google Trends to get an idea of hot areas. Type in your seed keyword and take a look at the search trends over the course of a year. This section is great for identifying seasonal trends. Further down, you'll see geographic trends in which you can click specific regions to analyze. Darker colored states will indicate that the seed term has a higher search volume and can help you pinpoint great locations. You can use knowledge of seasonal trends based on service to tailor your pitch to a certain industry and even create a sense of urgency. For instance, knowing that general landscape services peak around April, you can display knowledge of the industry and urgency by mentioning in email copy and sales pitch that you're looking to partner with a company soon before the season kicks in. You can use common sense for most services, but there are a few that might surprise you, specifically when you're breaking into a new industry. So that's the process I've found to be the most effective for finding high quality cities to prospect for PPC services. As mentioned, this will likely change depending on your industry, your approach, how tactical you want to get with outreach, as well as if you plan to use paid lists entirely. Next, we'll jump into how to quickly gather contact emails of business owners in your target regions. So far, I know of 3 ways you can prospect: manual, scraping, and paid lists. We utilize both manual and scraping for this study. As was the case with us, manual may be necessary depending on how targeted and tactical you're getting with outreach. However, for basic outreach, scraping was by far the most time efficient, and for this reason, is the bulk of what this section will cover. We didn't test any paid services, but I'll quickly touch on a couple you can check out, and we'll likely expand this case study with paid lists on the next one we do. So now that you have a list of cities and have a seed keyword, you can scrape multiple locations for business data. You can scrape the maps area, organic results, and even yellow pages to get quality lists of prospects. In order to do this, you'll need to hire someone on Fiverr for one-off projects or invest in your own scraping software. Obviously, if you're taking a long-term approach with email outreach, you'll want to invest in software. There are tools such as Scrapebox that cost a one-time payment, which will allow you to scrape organic results as well as maps and yellow pages if you buy the premium plugin as well. However, these tools have a bit of a learning curve and can be slightly more time-intensive than a more out-of-the-box solution. For this study, we used our buddy Lior's software called Scope Leads, which significantly speeds up the process of scraping large amounts of cities. Scope Leads has drip email sequences as well as tracking analytics to see which of your campaigns are producing the best results. We created campaigns based on our seed keywords and then scraped each city on our list. Scope Leads gives you the option to scrape for leads lacking in specific areas, which is an amazing feature to have. On top of that, he has a built-in feature that instantly produces audits for all the leads you end up scraping. For this study, however, we stuck with general scrapes simply to keep things as simple as possible. Now, keep in mind that no scraping software is perfect. No matter if you're scraping or buying lists, you're going to have to clean up the data. For this reason, we chose to export all the city lists to be manipulated in Google Sheets. Note that you can click these filters at the top of city scrape pages to limit leads to only contacts with found email addresses. We eventually started exporting the unfiltered list to separate out the phone number only contacts to use with voice drop software. However, I won't go into these as voice drops could be a case study of their own. Next up, I'll show you how we clean, enhanced, and organized the scrape data using Google Drive and Sheets. It's very easy to get overwhelmed and confused at scale with this process. There are a lot of CSV files, lots of leads to clean, and lots of final sheets to import back into drip email systems. For this reason, organization of your files is essential. Like me, you may get away with bad organization early on, but you'll likely become overwhelmed as you scale and be forced to reorganize. This is the exact process I went through, so hopefully I can save you guys that time by urging you to begin with organization. In Google Drive, I made a folder for recipients. Inside recipients are folders for each industry. Inside industry folders are verticals or services, as well as raw file folders to hold all of your scraped CSVs and their Google Sheet equivalents. Lastly, inside each service folder is a master sheet that we'll cover in a bit. First, let's jump into the raw file folder and upload all of our scraped CSV files. Then open each one with Google Sheets. This process is kind of annoying. I tried merging all the CSVs into one file and then opening that with Google Sheets, but the format was all messed up. Would love to know if someone finds a better way to do this. Next step is to aggregate all the leads into a single sheet. Now we want to deduplicate this data. Oftentimes when you scrape neighboring regions, you'll get repeat companies in your list since they service multiple locations. You can quickly do this by downloading the Google Sheet add-on called Remove Duplicates. Select a column and click Add-ons, then Remove Duplicates, then Find Duplicates or Uniques. Make sure your row or column is selected and press Next. Deduplicate the email, phone number, and business name column. Although most drip email software will dedupe for you, there's no reason to waste time enhancing data that is repeated. The minute it takes you to deduplicate will likely save you at least 20 minutes in wasted time finding contact names for the same contact 2 or 3 times. Next, hide everything but the business name, first name, and last name, web address, and email columns to help eliminate clutter. Manually scan down the email column and delete rows that have funky emails. You'll find some of these since I believe Scope Leads uses the WhoIsLookup API to find contact names and will sometimes grab other emails displayed on the WhoIsLookup page. Next, scan down the business name column to make sure the business is actually in the industry you're looking for. You can often tell in just the name, but for the ones you are unsure about, check their website. Delete any that don't match your criteria. The biggest struggle with cold emails is getting the contact info for the decision maker. For this reason, we saw much better results when we emailed personal emails than generic emails such as info, sales, admin, etc. We originally only emailed what looked to be personal emails, but ended up sending to generic addresses as well, since there really isn't any reason not to. Just expect a lower conversion on these. Also, the way we handle their name field is different than if the email is obviously a personal address. The general workflow and logic looks like this. Scan for any non-names and delete those immediately. Scan business fields for the person's name, because sometimes scope leads will actually push that into the business name itself. Scan the email columns to make sure first names match and change if they don't. If it's generic, then use part of the company name plus team. So you can choose to research these, but I'm not sure it's worth the time, so we decided to stick with a generic name. But you can perform research for name fields that do and don't have a name input if the email is non-generic, but the name is unidentified in the email itself. For the research phase, there's a few strategies and tips that you can take to find decision maker names, or at least the person you're emailing their name. So immediately just jump over to their website and go to their contact. So usually on their contact, they might have some form of their name. Then you can jump over to the about pages. Oftentimes when they're talking about their company, if they are a small business, they'll refer to their personal names. You can also jump over to our team. If it's a small team, you may be able to guess who is going to vet your email by looking to see who's in an admin role. Alternatively, and this may be even a faster way of doing it, you can jump over to company reviews. So look at their Google reviews, because they'll often mention the servicer's name. Once again, depends on the size of the company, as the servicer may not always be the person you're emailing. Next, you could use LinkedIn. I like to use search operators for this, so type in site:linkedin.com, quotes owner, president, CEO, whatever you want, and then the company name. What this search operator is doing is limiting your search to LinkedIn and then pages that only contain some version of that term, so owner or president, and then they work with this company. So keep in mind, this may not always be the person you're emailing, so try to determine by the size of the company, does it look to be a small business? If so, then you'll likely be emailing the owner. You can also do the same thing with Facebook with search operators, or go directly to Facebook and put in the email or phone number that you're trying to reverse lookup, or even alternatively use reverse lookup tools. Next, unhide the business address fields and add 2 columns to the left. Label these columns city and state. Go down the list and label each lead by city and state. You don't necessarily need to perform this step, but I'm merging in location data to my emails, so that is why I choose to do this for the study. As a side note, it was our aim to add as much personalization to the outbound email campaigns as to make the email look as natural and trustworthy as possible. You should now have clean data ready to send out, but first transfer this data to your master sheet in a table called Master Email List. Then you can organize the data in new tabs by state or whatever other way you'd like. I chose to organize by state since we're looking to test email timing as it related to open rates and conversions. For this reason, we need to make sure each uploaded CSV to the drip email system contains contacts that all have the same time zone. This will help ensure that all the emails are being sent at the same time within a single test. Lastly, we chose to create a master email list for organization and reference purposes. We added in extra columns such as submission date and sent status to help us organize and also refer back to basic business info when we got a lead response. Let's go into how we went about testing and optimizing campaigns. Split testing involves changing one variable at a time to test the effect the change has on performance. The key word here is one variable. It's impossible to know what change produces what result when you're changing 2 different variables at a time. This is why we first focus on subject lines. We split test multiple different subject lines with the exact same body and posted it at the exact same times of day. Now, our tests weren't perfect because the day of the week changed, but for the sake of practicality, we limited our testing. Which brings us to the next point: how optimized do you need to get? The more data you begin with and the more tests you run, the more accurate you'll get. But at what point is good enough? You'll likely have to determine this subjectively, but ultimately you should always be optimizing, so it's an ongoing process anyways. Your sample size affects how much variables you can test and what you're optimizing for. You can optimize for open rates, interested email responses, call appointments had, customers onboarded, and revenue generated. However, the further back you optimize, the more data you need for significant results. That's why we chose to optimize for one thing at a time, starting with open rates, then call appointments. We haven't yet started optimizing for new clients and revenue, but that could be something for a later date. We chose to test 5 different variables: subject lines, bodies, hours, days, and verticals. You can definitely test more variables such as where the contact info was pulled from, your offer, and even a signature. This will just require a longer study. Now that we know how and what to test for, let's discuss the tools used to send and manage cold emails at scale. In order to effectively run cold email campaigns at scale, you'll want to invest in drip email software. This software will allow you to schedule out bulk sends from a desired email address and even follow up multiple times. We chose to use Mailshake's system for the email outreach component over scope leads. This is simply because Mailshake is strictly designed for drip emails, and because of that has a few beneficial features and slightly more organized UI for what we needed. Mailshake is extremely simple, so really there is not much explanation needed on how to use it. You have your campaign area that lists each of your campaigns. Each one of these is a separate test. Clicking through to a campaign will show you stats for how it performed, such as what email they opened it, replied, and unsubscribed on. Then, you can look at the message area. Mailshake allows you to merge in words to your emails and create sequences of emails. The great thing is, these emails stop once the person replies, so you don't need to worry about coming off as spammy. Then you have your recipient list, which you can upload CSV files to. You'll then have the option to schedule out the send time as well as delete duplicates, contacts that exist in other campaigns, and generic email addresses. Try to label your campaigns in a way that shows the important aspects of what you're testing so it's easy to decipher what is and isn't working. Mailshake has a feature called Lead Catcher that displays only the responses from your campaigns. This is a cool feature, but wasn't something I used much since you'll see the replies in your normal email anyways. That brings us to CRM and how to manage good responses. The reason any of us are doing cold outreach is likely because we want to get a business on the phone to eventually sell services to. This process is ongoing and takes the same, if not more attention than the actual prospecting itself. One problem I ran into was slow follow-ups. This caused me to miss out on a lot of opportunities. That's why it's important to keep track of your ongoing conversations and understand where each lead is in your sales pipeline. To do this, we use CRM, which stands for Customer Relationship Management. There are many different CRM to choose from, too many actually, so don't worry about which one to use. Use whatever one you already are comfortable with. I use Streak CRM for this case study. I chose to use Streak because it's entirely within your Gmail account, which centralizes all your activity. It might be due to the fact that I don't know all the features of Streak, and or that I was limited to the free plan, but I was not a big fan of Streak as compared to Pipedrive, which I know very well. This is one thing I'll likely change as we move forward with the case study. An added benefit of CRM is the ability to note vital lead data such as their website and task yourself with things to do for that person. You can schedule these tasks as they arise so that you don't even have to think about what to do next and your system will just remind you. I found this to be a great way to free up lots of mental space and is definitely needed once you have a lot of leads coming into your pipeline. Okay, so let's go over the results from the month of January of doing this. We'll touch on the stats as you can see here, and as well as a couple tips that we found along the way. So as you can see, we got 25 people in our pipeline. These were just people that showed some sort of interest in our service through email. From those, we made 10 call appointments, and we got 2 clients closed. One was a marketer, the other one was a landscaper. So network contacts is basically just people who I jumped on the phone with they had really no buying intent, but they were marketers and we just shot the shit for like 30-40 minutes and now we're connected on social. Follow-up laters, they just were interested but just not at that time. Who knows if they'll actually turn into a client, but I guess we'll find out. Potential yearly revenue, this is assuming that we continue to service throughout the year, but that's how much I will make in revenue. So a couple findings from this test is we found the best times in terms of lead response was between 4 and 6 p.m., so at the end of work days. You can email in the mornings and get pretty high open rates, but it doesn't seem like we're getting the response rates like we were getting at the end of the workday, and this might be a motivational thing. Some of the highest performing verticals were chiropractors and other doctors. It's surprisingly easy to get decision maker contact info for these industries, and that's likely the reason why these perform so well. Another finding was that high open rates do not always mean a good subject. You want your subject to be highly related to what your body's going to be. So we did a subject line that was like, hey, your name, comma, are you interested in this? Which is pretty open and vague. So we got really high open rates with this, but not a very good response ratio. So you got to look at both open rates and your responses that you're getting from it. We found that the best performing emails in terms of bodies were fairly short, direct to the point, and used natural sounding language. So we even dumbed down concepts when we were talking about them in the emails. You got to think about who you're talking to. They're generally not marketers, so don't speak in terms of marketing language, speak in terms of business. We also found that people respond to these emails mostly towards the second half of the week. So we got a lot of responses on Wednesday, Thursdays, Fridays, and even Saturdays. Any of these can change based on the niche, by the way, but this kind of makes sense because most people are hustling during the Mondays and Tuesdays, and perhaps in the second half of the week they're thinking about other things. During this process, we refined our approach to the point where we were getting open rates between 35 and 60% even on the initial sends, and then pretty much 100% on initial contact upload. So say you uploaded 25 contacts over the course of a deep email sequence of maybe 4 or 5 follow-ups, we're getting 100% of those people to at least open the email. Which brings me to one more point, is that we got more leads surprisingly off of email sequences that had longer reply sequence. So at 2 reply follow-ups, we didn't get as many leads out of that as if we did 4 or 5 follow-ups. So keep that in mind. You won't be too spammy as long as you change the follow-up around a little bit. Try to hit it from a different approach from every single follow-up that you do. We also refined the bodies of our emails to the point where we're getting over 3% response rate, good response rate to our emails. So if we sent out 100 email contacts, then we would get approximately 3 people that were warm leads. So we've taken this email and templated it. This is our best performing one, and you guys can get that by clicking the link in the description below this video. This is going to show you the exact subject line that we use, the body, and the email sequence. It's also going to go over the vertical and the times of days that we're sending this out at.
Okay guys, that's it for this video. I'm really glad you made it this far, and I hope we brought some value to you and you learned a few things about how to set up your own system for cold emails. From here on, we're going to be producing more case studies throughout 2018 and beyond. So we'd love to hear about what you guys want to learn about next. We have some ideas about where we're going to take this. Most likely it's going to involve paid lists, as well as leveraging some tools such as voice drops and LinkedIn Sales Navigator tool. And we're also going to take a slightly more advanced approach where we're going to do a little bit more ninja tactics, see if we can take a more branding approach rather than a direct response, and see if that's actually viable and whether that could be useful to people. What that would look like is having a landing page that's linked to in your signature, and see who goes there, pixel them, and re-advertise to them. So yeah, once again, I hope you guys liked it. Glad you made it this far. Glad you watched. Let us know how we can improve, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.